If at this point you pick up on some anger in my voice as I record this video, it's because I've tried 3 separate times to bring it to you. I'm a little bit annoyed at this point. I've recorded it multiple times, uploaded it, and only to discover that something happened. The first time it crapped out on me ultimately in the middle of recording, and I thought it had kept recording, but no, I failed to notice the clock stopped advancing, and I got a video that was much smaller than I had anticipated. It uploaded very quickly, and then I realized, oh fuck, my mistake. The second time I did it, I uploaded the whole damn thing, and it and no audio had crapped out. God, I fucking hate computers sometimes. See, I feel like computers and me have like a cursed relationship. We get along, it enables a lot, but at the other end of things, I have to fix a lot of tech related problems. Um, One of the things that I'm experiencing with my Windows computer is if the headphones aren't plugged in, it seems like the audio just craps out at this point. I don't know what the fuck is going on there. I will have to look into that at some other point. It's now seeming to become dependent on my fucking headphones. But I wanted to talk about this. I have been part of the scene. When I talk about the scene on today's video, I'm not talking about like the music scene. I'm talking about, the scene that people on Torrent Freak as a publication would talk about. I will link some content from them in there, and my fellow members of it, uh, like they've written article after article about why it's just better not to really become a member of it. Like it just it isn't a good, like it's a pain in the ass to join. Like one of the first things is that you know so the first thing is that if you want access to top sites that are highly protected FTP servers that are storing hundreds or thousands of terabytes of copyrighted material, users have to be authorized to the top site by pre-existing members, and the users can only connect from specific IP ranges. In particular, top sites usually always have an IRC channel where they announce their releases made on the Pacific top site, along with other things such as newly released traded releases, request and chat. These IRC chat rooms are encrypted using encryption tools on top of SSL. Top sites can either be home hosted or rented. Rented sites are avoided by members of the scene who are higher up in the food chain, since those are generally riskier to be located at some hosting companies' data centers. Users of top sites are usually one of the following: traders, racers, release group affiliates, and site group operator is a user who administers a top site. Release group affiliates are a single group of users who work together to download, rip, and prepare and pack a release and pre a release. These groups usually compete against each other to get a release out as fast as possible, release beating other groups. And this is the aspect of it that made it, sort of like I don't necessarily want to be part of it, because I don't give a shit who's first personally. Like the race to be the first, and that's why I found the side door that I did to a release group that basically didn't race everybody else. It didn't care. It came last, but it decided to make it up to people by having better content than the other, you know, pages did. We made the DVDs better. We improved them and made them better and released a superior product to even the one that you could pay for. That's what we did to make it up to people. Traders and racers are a user who moves between top sites. For example, as soon as XYZ group releases an MP3 album on top site ASD, multiple traders instantly grab the new release and transfer it to the other top sites. When the release lands on the other top sites, traders there start sharing it further and further until every single top site has release. In some cases, it only takes minutes for every single top site to have this release in question. It's true. Now, if I were to join and get access at this kind of level, like I would go for being a trader and racer myself, in particular. I would be one of the people that tries to do the XP transfers between, the top sites in particular. So that's the scene that I'm referring to. The scene is an infamous collection of individuals, groups, and servers. It's a source of countless terabytes of pirated content. It's super secretive by nature. Members of the scene value their exclusivity and clandestine nature. Every now and then, someone breaks cover to provide a glimpse behind the curtain. Now, me, in talking about all this, I am in retirement at this point. I am not part of the scene. I'm not bound by the same code of secrecy that the rest of them are in all of this. Anyone involved in the piracy ecosystem could stake claim to being in the scene, but for those with an interest in with a discerning interest in pirate matters, terminology is all important. Now, I'm not part of the scene. I'm part of the PTP community at this point. After decades of existence, the scene has attained a mythical status among pirates. It's not a site, a place, a person, or a group. The scene is all of these things combined in a virtual world to which few people ever actually gain access. In basic terms, the scene is a collection of loose and tight-knit individuals and groups using internet networks as meeting places and storage vessels in order to quickly leak as much pirated content as possible, from movies, TV shows, and music to software, ebooks, and behind and beyond. Almost anything digital is fair game for piracy at the most elite level. These people, sceners, are as protective of their content as they are meticulous of the privacy, but that doesn't stop huge volumes of quote their unquote material leaking out onto the wider internet, and occasionally, occasionally, one of their members breaking ranks to tell people about it. Torrent Freak itself recently made contact with one individual who indicated willingness to pull back the veil. However, verifying that seniors are who they say they are is often inherently difficult. In part, we tackle this problem by agreeing for a predetermined character string to be planted inside a spring release. With a fairly quick turnaround on as promised, the agreed characters appeared on the Pacific release. The release had been made was confirmed by the standard accompanying text-based NFO file, which are collectively and both widely available. In respect to the group's identity, we asked to say that it's been active since 2018, but nothing more. We can confirm that it already has dozens of releases thus far in 2019. Our contact, who we would call the so-called source, also claims to work with the groups involved in with so-called web releases, such as video content obtained and decrypted user sources, like including Netflix and Prime Video. For security reasons, he wasn't prepared to prove membership of that niche in the same fashion. However, the information he provided on those activities to be covered in the upcoming part two of this article is very interesting indeed. But as an introduction to the basics for those unfamiliar with how the scene operates, the basic of the scenes are that there's a top sites, they're top secret, highly protected FTP servers, storing hundreds of thousands of terabytes of copyrighted material. Users have to be authorized to that top site by pre-existing members, and the users can only connect from specific IP ranges. Top sites usually have an IRC channel where they announce the releases made on the Pacific top site, along with other things such as newly traded releases, requests, and chat. These IRC chat rooms are encrypted using encryption tools on top of using the secure socket layer SSL. Top sites can either be hosted or rented. Rented sites are avoided by members of the scene who are higher up in the food chain, since those sites are generally at risk of being located at hosting companies' data centers. Usually, users on the top site are usually one of the following: traders, racers, release groups, affiliates, and site operators. A user who administers a top site. Release groups, affiliates, a single group of users who work together to download and prepare and pack a release. These groups usually compete against each other to get a release out as fast as possible. Now, see, this particular aspect of it was not part of what we did. We didn't race against other groups. We made it up to our people by, providing a higher quality release than the damn DVDs themselves. I mean, we were part of Anime Explosion, and that was the side door that I used to get high up on the ecosystem as I did. Like, see, I didn't get top site access. I wasn't part of that. Like the top FTP servers, I hadn't climbed high enough to get that, but I had gotten access to like the priority XDC bots by uploading content to people. It's just that I didn't have like a super fast internet connection, at least on the upstream side of things, because I'm still on cable, which they are getting better. In particular in this community, they are going up and up and up and up and up. But it's not happening all at once. Despite Source's own group being relatively new, he says his history with the scene dates back 3 years. Intrigued at the possibility of becoming a member, but with no prior experience, he contacted the scene group using an email address inside an NFO, offering his coding skills. I was able to convince the group to adopt me into the scene by providing them scripts and tools to make their job easier and faster alongside other programming related tasks. The thing with these scene groups is they don't trust outsiders, he explains, and it's true. Given that not granting access to the given that, that not granting access to the wrong people is fundamental to the security of the scenes, we asked how this vetting took place. The source explained that it was conducted over a period of time, around 4 months, with the particular scene group carrying out its own investigations to ensure he wasn't lying about himself or his abilities. These groups will vet new members who often try their best to dox the recruit to make sure that the user is secure. If you're able to be doxxed based on info you give or your IP address or anything, really, you will lose your chances to join. The group won't actually do anything with your personal info, he adds somewhat reassuringly. And, you know, and that would make it a little bit difficult since, for business purposes, have, somewhat, leaked my own information on purpose. I used an aggregator at one point to link together all my various identities across the web because it just, if people wanted to find me, I wanted them to be able to. But that was, after I, entered retirement, I was as part of being, the scene and everything. I was no longer a member of it. I'm part of the PTP community that's upstream from there. So, we don't particularly care. We're on the PTP side of things. We're more patient and willing to wait for content to leak out of the scene, that's upstream from us. They're more, the guys that do this are often more adrenaline filled and everything. They're they like the race to get the content out first. Most seniors are very cautious of new users even after being vetted in due to the risk of the user still being insecure. An undercover officer are generally unwanted in terms of behavior. Once you've been idling in the chats for such months, you slowly start gaining some basic recognition and trust. He says, so you want to park yourself there for a long ass time, basically. Once he'd gained access via the first top website, source says he decided to branch out on his own by creating his own scene group and gathering content to release. From there, he communicated with the other users on the top site in an effort to gain access to additional top sites as an affiliate. As mentioned earlier, his own releases via his own group, the name of which we aren't disclosing here, a number in the dozens, perhaps in the past several months alone. They are listed publicly available pre-databases, which archive information in NFO files, which provide information to scene releases. However, his own group isn't the only string to the source bow. Of particular interest was his release involvement with so-called web releases, i.e., pirate releases of regionally protected video content provided from platforms like Netflix and Prime Video. Content for web releases are obtained by downloading the source content. Whenever you stream a video online, you're downloading chunks of the video file to your computer. Seeders typically save that content and attempt to decrypt it for non-DRM playback later. Streams from those sites are protected by DRM. The most common and hard to crack DRM is called wild eBind. The way the scene handles web releases is by uploading special tools coded by the scene for the scene. This is a particularly sensitive area, not the least since Source says he's actually a programmer for multiple scene groups making his releases. He's understandably cautious, so until next week, when we continue to offer more detail specifically about web content, he leaves an early cautionary note for anybody, considering joining the scene. You can become sceners with friends, but not friends with sceners, he concludes. And if that is, your impression of everything, it's true. Basically, you don't want to be part of that. Now, Torrent Freak itself basically says the scene bust triggered a historic drop in pirate releases, and my response is a very temporary historic drop. It turned around very shortly out thereafter, which does go to show you that the government is slated to lose this war in the long run. And and that's what I mean when I say I'm a member of the scene. We I got distro access by upload. I found who the group's encoder was. I ripped with DVD decryptor an ISO of Escaflowne in particular, and then I connected to his FTP server and maintained the FTP client until it had finished transferring the ISO to him. After that, I provided other DVDs that I had access to at that point and demonstrated a willingness to provide DVDs to the group. None of my DVDs were ever actually able to be transferred into content, but I was able to leverage having done that for them to get distro access from other groups by volunteering to fill the XDC bots with them. So I'm not even in that class of people in that stream of people that gets files over XDC. See, a step above even that is the highest rank that I was able to get. But I had never climbed so goddamn high that I was able to get topside access to what's going on. And so now I just kind of hang out in the wings and I do things like buy um, a, a PlayStation 5 for, known hackers that are, trying to beat the hypervisor and everything else and enable us to pirate games on the PlayStation 5. I mean, I'm incredibly useful to the scene, but I just I'm not one of those people that's like, part and parcel of it. I'm one of those people that benefits from all of it happening, upstream from it on the PTP side of things. Like, because I don't mind getting my content like after, I can wait. I mean, like when anime releases come out, for instance, like there's this new one that I wanted to watch, and then I realized how censored it was in all of its official broadcasts. So it's just like wait for the fucking Blu-rays to drop. Wait for the Blu-rays to drop. Wait for the Blu-rays to drop. Like that's become sort of my mantra when it comes to this particular content because it's like, well, anime is going to be censored if it comes in any form other than, its actual Blu-rays, which are presumed to be older if you have access to that particular content. So it's like they're less likely to censor it. So it's just like boom, wait till somebody rips that, and that's how I feel about all of it. So I'm the most heavily associated with the anime side of the scene, and that's what I know the best. And um, so today though, like this video, like it's 17 minutes in, and you're finally gonna get to the meat of it. I found for my audience, and as a reward for getting this far in listening to me rant for as long as you just did, a guide on how to get ebooks. And I am now going to link it for you in Underbar. I want to preface this by saying I have spent time on IRC. I have one disagreement with the guide. It says in it, to begin, download an IRC client. I suggest MRIC. Now, at the top of the underbar, I have provided a Windows installer for IRSSI. I would recommend using CYGWin to install IRSSI. To Windows users, to Linux users, I would suggest IRSSI. Again, as far as a client. Now, the reason for my recommendation is not that it's the best fucking client out there from my perspective. I don't necessarily share that view, but if you're like me, you might get curious about things and you might track off to some of the side channels that people actually socialize in. And you're going to find out that on IRC, a lot of people are Linux enthusiasts and Linux elitist who will make fun of you if you use MRIC. It's just the reality of joining the IRC community. You can bitch about it or you can conform. And if you're going to use a different client, it's a good idea to prove to those bastards that you know how the fuck to use IRSSI first, and then tell them that you just prefer a different client, and that you guys can have your opinion, live and let live. You can think that it's the better client. I don't give a shit. I prefer something else. You know, if that's how you want to play. But I would suggest learning how to fucking use it as far as a client is concerned, because you will be made fun of. Uh, MRIC has a reputation, like IRC, Internet Relay Chat, by the way, has a reputation for being a bunch of tech elitist people. If you want to socialize with the tech elites that use it, that's my suggestion to you. Um, the people that are with it and use it these days, they are usually aware of the fact that technology has moved on a lot from IRC. They don't give a shit. If you're still using it today, you probably have a preference for it, and you probably have your own reasons for it. I still do. I mean, I think that personally, I think that Discord is nice and all for what it's good for, but I think that if all you want to do is chat with people and maybe exchange a few links here and there, IRC is a better way to do it.